Hello, first grade. I am back with Brave Irene. We're going to finish our story today to find out what happens with Irene and the gown and her mom. Let's quickly review what was going on in the story. What was Irene doing? She's bringing the gown that her mom made to the Duchess for the ball that they're having. Was that an easy thing for Irene to do? Why not? Right, because there's this big snowstorm with a strong, powerful wind. And if you remember, a big problem actually happened because the wind blew the gown away. So Irene doesn't even have it right now. And that's what she's supposed to be bringing to the Duchess. So we're going to see what happens today. Now, why does Irene decide to face the wind and the snow? Why question? So you have to think about what the character wants. What does Irene want to do by taking the dress? If you said she wants to help her mom, you're right. She wants to help her mom who is sick and worked so hard to make that dress. Do you think she'll be successful? We're going to find out. Will she give up? How will the Duchess feel when she gets there? How would her mom feel when she finds out what happens? We're going to find out today. Before we get started, though, we're really focusing on character traits, which means words that describe Irene. So to do that, you think about what the character says and does to tell you what more about that character. So if you think back to Owl at Home and The Guest with the characters Owl and Winter, we talked about some character traits to describe them. So Owl was very welcoming and invited Winter in when Winter was out in the cold. So that tells me that Owl is kind and welcoming. But what did Winter do when he came into Owl's home? Got snow everywhere, pushed Owl against the wall. Those actions, the things that Winter did, tell me that Winter was pretty rude and messy because they got snow everywhere. We're going to do the same thing with our story, Brave Irene, to find out character traits about Irene. And actually, there's one right here in the title, Brave. What does Irene do in the story that tells you she's brave? Yeah, just like we talked about, she's facing this big snowstorm and this strong wind just to help her mom. That definitely tells me that she's brave. And I think it could give you some other character traits about her too, but we'll talk more about that later. Ready to get started and find out what happens? Excellent. So where we left off, she was lost, but she's still going to try to find the palace. She was asking how long a small person could keep this struggle up when she realized it was getting lighter. There was a soft glow coming from somewhere below her. She waded toward this glow and soon was gazing down a long slope at a brightly lit mansion. It had to be the palace. Irene pushed forward with all her strength and sloosh, thwump, she plunged downward and was buried. She had fallen off a little cliff. Only her hat and the box in her hand stuck out above the snow. Can you see that? Even if she could call for help, no one would hear her. Her body shook. Her teeth chattered. Why not freeze to death, she thought, and let all these troubles end? Why not? She was already buried. Whoa, how is Irene feeling here? Pretty discouraged. It sounds like she wants to give up. Let's see what happens. Then Irene thinks, and never see her mother's face again? Her good mother who smelled like fresh baked bread? In an explosion of fury, she flung her body about to free herself and was finally able to climb up on her knees and look around. How to get down to that glittering palace? As soon as she raised the question, she had the answer. She laid the box down and climbed aboard. You see what she's doing? But it pressed into the snow and stuck. She tried again, and this time, instead of climbing on, she leaped. The box shot forward like a sled. Such a good idea. The wind raced after Irene, but couldn't keep up. In a moment, she would be with people again, inside where it was warm. The sled slowed and jerked to a stop on paving stones. The time had come to break the bad news to the Duchess. With the empty box clasped to her chest, Irene strode nervously toward the palace. How is Irene feeling now? Yeah, it says nervously. Say she's nervous, she's worried. Why? right? Because she doesn't have the dress. But look at the picture. But then her feet stopped moving and her mouth fell open. She stared. Maybe this was impossible. Yet there it was, a little way off and over to the right, hugging the trunk of a tree, the beautiful ball gown. The wind was holding it there. Whoa, so the wind actually helped Irene. Even though the wind originally blew the dress away, now the wind is helping her. "Mama!" Irene shouted. "Mama, I found it!" She managed somehow, despite the wind's meddling, to get the gown off the tree and back in its box. And in another moment, she was at the door of the palace. She knocked twice with the big brass knocker. The door opened, and she burst in. How do you think Irene is feeling now? Much happier, probably relieved. She was welcomed by cheering servants and a delirious duchess. They couldn't believe she had come over the mountain in such a storm all by herself. She had to tell the whole story, every detail, and she did. Then she asked to be taken right back to her sick mother, but it was out of the question, they said. The road that ran around the mountain wouldn't be cleared till morning. "Don't fret, child," that means don't worry, said the Duchess. "Your mother is surely sleeping now. We'll get you there first thing tomorrow." Irene was given a good dinner as she sat by the fire, the moisture steaming off her clothes. The Duchess, meanwhile, got into her freshly ironed gown before the guests began arriving in their sleighs. What a wonderful ball it was! The Duchess in her new gown was like a bright star in the sky. Irene, in her ordinary dress, was radiant. She was swept up into dances by handsome aristocrats who kept her feet off the floor to spare her ankle. Her mother would enjoy hearing all about it. There's Irene there. Early the next morning, when snow had long since ceased falling, Mrs. Bobbin woke from a good night's sleep feeling much improved. She hurried about and got a fire going in the cold stove. Then she went to look in on Irene. But Irene's bed was empty. She ran to the window and gazed at the white landscape. No one out there. Snow powder fell from the branch of a tree. "Where is my child?" Miss Bobbin cried. She whipped on her coat to go out and find her. When she pulled the door open, a wall of drift faced her, but peering over it, she could see a horse-drawn sleigh hastening up the path. And seated on the sleigh between two large footmen was Irene herself, asleep but smiling. It says here, "Would you like to hear the rest?" Let's finish it. Well, there was a bearded doctor in the back of the sleigh, and the Duchess had sent Irene's mother a ginger cake with white icing, some oranges and a pineapple, and spice candy of many flavors, along with a note saying how much she cherished her gown and what a brave and loving person Irene was. Which, of course, Mrs. Bobbin knew better than the Duchess. The end. What did you guys think? We talked about it a little bit. Was Irene successful? Yeah, she was able to get the gown to the Duchess, had a wonderful ball, and made it back to her mom. Pretty good story, right? So, what are some character traits that we could use to describe Irene? Did Irene give up? Even when it was really difficult, she didn't give up. That tells me that she's determined. And even though she was stuck in the snow, she was still thinking about her mom and the Duchess. She wasn't even worried about herself that much. That tells me that she's unselfish. Those are some character traits that we could use to describe Irene. Now, what was something, this is one of my favorite parts, but what made Irene keep going even when she wanted to give up? If you remember this part, she was thinking about her mom, and she said, and never see her mother's face again, her good mother who smelled like fresh baked bread. So thinking about her mom and how kind she was and how hard she worked on that dress, that really helped her to keep persevering and not give up, even though it was really difficult. I want you to think about, and then we're going to write about, what person or maybe an idea helps you when things are really tough? Sometimes, right now, things are really tough because we can't be at school together. So what person or idea helps you keep going? We're going to write about that. So I'm going to show you your writing prompt, just like Miss Ross has been doing. I know you guys are superstar writers. So today, you're going to write to answer this question. What person or idea helps you keep working when things get tough? And I even have your sentence starters here to help you. So what person or idea helps you when things get tough? You can start with, when things get tough, helps me. And on this space here, you're going to put the person or the idea that helps you keep going when things are tough. Then you want to give some reasons for how they help you. So if it's a boy, you would use he. If it's a girl, you would use she. If it's an idea, you would use it. So it helps me by, and if you want, you can even add another reason, saying also, and what else it does to help you. Want me to read my example for you? Most of you probably know who it is, but I chose a person who helps me keep going even when things are tough and I want to give up. So I wrote, when things get tough, my niece, Felicity, helps me. You guys have seen her before in some of my videos. So because Felicity is a girl, I'm going to use the word she. She helps me by making me smile. She always does silly, goofy things, and it helps me feel better. Also, she reminds me that I can keep trying and not give up. That's my other reason. I can't wait to hear who or what helps you when things are tough, especially in times like now when we can't be at school together. It's definitely tough. So you can use this to help you get to that writing. Send a picture to your teachers as usual so that we know who or what is helping you when things get tough. See you soon, Kipsters.